Well, the reason the 914 appealed to me, it was a Porsche, and it was fast, and I was a teenager, and for me, those were the three primary qualifications for a car. My name is John Tanner, and I've been a lifelong car enthusiast. Currently within the family group, so this would be my father and my son. We have a 1915 Buick, 29 Model A, 235 Plymouth, one is a coupe, one is a sedan, 1952 Pilot Dodge truck, a 75 914, along with two 1978 GMC motorhomes. My wife and I have three kids. My oldest two are grown and moved out. My youngest, Cole, is going into his junior year at college. He's an interesting character. He's out of the three, he's really the one that took to automobiles and cars and mechanics and mechanical things. For years, he was my garage buddy. You know, he was under the car with me. He was helping me getting tools, doing whatever was necessary.
My name's Cole Tanner, and I drive a 1975 Porsche 914 along with a few other antique vehicles. I also daily drive a 1929 Ford Model A when I'm attending college. My father never owned any race cars while I was alive or did any racing. He'd retired before I was born. So I only got to really hear the stories from his racing career, and you know, they were enthralling.
So I started racing right at the tail end of high school. My parents allowed me to go up and take a driving course at Jim Russell Racing at Mont Tremblant in Canada. I just absolutely fell in love with that. It was exactly what I wanted to do. It was my passion. It was something I really, bit into and was willing to make the sacrifices necessary. Wrenched my time as a mechanic in return for seat time. At some point, that's not really the equation. You actually have to start paying. And that's where I started to kind of drift into other series.
I always wanted him to step on the gas pedal a little bit harder the next time that he launched from a stoplight, and it was always a fun activity to go for a ride with my dad.
He never actually saw the 914 when I originally owned it. Let's say, 8 or 9 years old, he sees a picture.
I think it was my father, his best friend, and his best friend's dog, all standing in front of my dad's 914, looking really cool.
And he's like, "Who's that? That looks like you, and what's that car?" I was like, "Oh, well, I owned that as a teenager. It's a Porsche." If a child could disown a parent, I came as close as I could at that moment with Cole.
I kind of fell in love with it. It was a really ugly car. It didn't jump out at me because it looked cool. I thought my dad looked really cool in front of it, which is what made me want the car initially. And I kind of always had the thought in the back of my mind of one day I will own a 914. I'll buy one.
He was really upset that I would sell this car knowing that, I had him and that he was going to be this car lover. And over the years, that was something that Cole just always talked about. And I never really got the idea to look for my dad's 914 until my senior year of high school, when I had been working and I saved up money, and I had really gotten the itch for working on an old car, and I wanted something antique. I wanted something that didn't run on a computer. And then without myself even knowing about it, Cole and his grandfather, my father, started looking for it.
It was about 1.5 years that we took to track down the car and secure it to buy it. But it was really the picture, that photo, that made me fall in love with the idea of owning a 914.
They worked their way through that, found the owner.
After about 1 year's time, I kind of started to give up. Came home from school, and I got a phone call from my grandfather. He said he had a big surprise for me. Now that we had found it, I knew I was going to own this car. No matter what, if I had to wait 1 year, 10 years, I knew where the car was, I'm going to own it. 6 months later, we got a phone call. He said, "Hey, I'm ready to sell it." But I had him send me another photo of the car. I then put in front of my father at the dinner table when he got home from work that day. and he kind of like lit up. He got really, really excited, and upon realizing that it was his car that we had found.
I grabbed my buddy who owned it before me, Matt Stanton, and I called him up on the phone and said, hey, guess what? I found the 914. You want to come with me to go get it? Grabbed a buddy's truck. I got a U-Haul trailer, just straight down to Savannah, picked it up, straight back, nonstop. And my son, who is about 6'6", was in the back of just an extended cab pickup, legs and arms going everywhere.
56 hours round trip. It was the most uncomfortable road trip I've ever taken in my life, but it was the most fun I've ever had. The mid-story, they say, hey, do you remember that one time we did this? And they both look at each other and start laughing, and I'd ask to hear the story, and they're like, you're not old enough to hear that story. And I don't think I'll ever be old enough to hear that story, in my dad's opinion.
When we drove down to Savannah to pick the 914 up, the gentleman had pulled it out into the driveway, and my son actually stood next to it and put his hand on it, and he's got one finger on the car, and he's just got this goofiest grin you could ever see. For him, it was that real, that tangible emotional moment for him when he finally got to touch the car that his father had driven. It was a pretty powerful moment for all of us.
I was just dumbfounded. Something in the back of my mind was just sitting there like, hey, what if the car is not actually there? Seeing it sit in the driveway, that was the moment.
Once we got back to Massachusetts with the 914, and we started the process of restoring it and changing things out that had been modified back to the way they should be, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to join Porsche Club of America.
The first time I drove it was probably about a month, 2 months after we got it back into Massachusetts. Is that second?
Yeah, not too fast here. Let me have my moment!
They had the Paul Russell tour.
Didn't know about this school that I'm attending until I attended a tour of Paul Russell and Company's shop in Essex, Massachusetts.
My son was really fascinated with the cars at this point. He was absolutely on board with going. This is post-high school, who had no idea what he wanted to do. Didn't get great grades in high school, had gone to a local community college, really just wasn't sure what he was going to do with his life. When we showed up at Paul Russell's location, we walked in, and again, for him, the moment was very akin to when he saw the 914. You could see it in his eyes, you could hear it in his voice. This is what he wanted to do.
That opportunity came up solely because I had the 914 and that I had joined the PCA. So I got to see, I could live off of doing work on antique vehicles. The shop manager came out and pretty much said, if you guys want to stick around for a little bit longer, I've got an opportunity. And he told me about the school. My grandparents, they helped me come out for the Summer Institute. I had never been in what is known as a flyover state. I'd never seen, rolling cornfields for miles on miles. I had been accepted into the auto program at that point, but I had not been accepted into the school. I had to return to community college to bolster my transcript to get the GPA higher so the school would accept me on the academic side of the college, which took about 3 years. It was kind of starting to feel like it would never happen, but once when I got that letter, I realized wow, this is it.
As parents, we want our children to be safe, we want them to be happy, and we want them to find their path in this world we live in. Seeing that light switch moment for him, that thing that sparked that interest and curiosity is the most rewarding for me.
It's worth the wait. I've gone through a lot to get here. I've experienced a lot of ups and downs, and I've made a lot of personal mistakes that really barred my entrance to the school and made it very difficult for myself. I was down in Miami, Florida this past December at an internship. They had me working on vintage supercars. It was one of those surreal moments where the work that you're doing in school is actually coming to fruition and you're given actual opportunities, not told to just go wash a car at someone's shop because you're an intern. They understood.
I had emotionally parted with the car. I feel incredibly lucky that we had the opportunity to buy it back, but for me, it was really Cole's car at that point. He's the one that chased it. He's the one that did all the effort and the energy to find it. I have great memories of that car. I mean, fantastic memories in that car. But for me, it was really about seeing that event for him.
The 914 has had its next project lined up for the past 2 years now. As far as myself, I'm currently completing my junior year here, so I will be graduating spring of 2022. My internship that I had in December, they liked me enough to the point where they want me to come back. And then when I graduate, we will see if they have the room to hire me on. And I've had all these stories from people who come up to me and have their childhood brought back to them. Every time I take it out, someone stops and comments to me. It's something really special to see someone get lost in their memories in front of you.
The 914 is going to be something I personally think is going to be a part of his life for a very long time. I have to imagine at some point he's going to be able to really tear it apart and put it back together. That'll be a challenge and a story for him to kind of tell when he gets there.